This is the WPCS-EX-II particle counter with the LD800 cell. The LD800 cell is a 1000 micron by 800 micron cell, and I'm going to show today how to clean the cell using a cleaning brush. Before you get started, as you see, the unit is running right now. Before you get started, you want to pull the plug on the unit, power it down, and then a few items you're going to need is a wash bottle with some clean fluid just to wash things off, some MICRON soap, which we can supply or you can buy through vendors like Cole Parmer. We have a cleaning brush, a Q-tip to clean the fittings, and a wrench to take a few things apart. So we've powered down the unit, and now we want to shut off the water. At the base of the weir is a valve. You can shut the flow to the base of the weir, and you'll see the flow will be stopping, but it'll stop slowly because the weir tubing has water in it. So to speed things up, once you shut off the valve at the base of the weir, you can disconnect the tubing and you'll have water here, and just let that drain out and let the system drain. So now we've got power off, water drained out of the sensor. Now we just have to access the cell to the sensor, and to do that, 2 9/16 compression nuts. Remove top, remove the bottom, remove the top. The flow goes on the sensor the flow goes from bottom to top. So as you wash them or flush them, if you're trying to flush anything out of it, for example, you might want to take a wash like this, and then you'll be washing things from the top down out the bottom. That's just a flush. For cleaning the sensor, if you want to just clean the sensor cell inside, you could just leave the fittings in which case you take your bottle of cleaning fluid, put a few drops onto the brush, and simply insert the brush through the cell of the sensor. Scrub it up and down a few times, and you can switch it around from the bottom too. And once that's done, your cell itself should now be clean. You might find if you have calcium deposits, you might have to soak it in a mild solution of iron out. But if you're just doing a general cleaning, the MICRON and the MICRON soap with a brush will be all you need to do. If you want to get a little deeper into the cleaning and clean the fittings, you can take a 5/8 wrench and take off the bottom and top fittings. And that gives you access to the fitting itself, where you can take a Q-tip with some water and some soap again and wash the fitting through, and then rinse the fitting off. So to clean the fitting, you might even have you can use a thicker brush if you want, depends how dirty the fitting is. But once the fitting is off, clean it as much as you need to clean it. Same with top fitting. Sometimes when you remove the fittings, you'll find the O-ring has stayed inside. In this case, both the rubber O-rings are on the fittings. While I have it open, you can take a look inside of the sensor cell itself, and that's the opening into the cell, and that's the part we're cleaning. And as I said, you only need to take the fittings off if you want to do a more thorough fitting and clean the fittings itself. And the tubing, once you have the tubing disconnected, if you want to run a small brush through the tubing, you can do that as well. But the actual cleaning of the inside of the cell only needs this brush for the cleaning. And once you're done, you put everything back together. There's going to be some residual soap, so before you put it completely back together, you can flush the cell out. keep an eye on your O-rings so you don't lose those. And as you see, these are straight threaded fittings with an O-ring. So what that means is you don't torque down on it as you would a standard pipe fitting. It's not a tapered fitting. You need to do it hand tight, a little bit farther, just enough to compress the O-ring, and that's all you need. You're only talking about a few psi of pressure in here, so just enough to compress the O-ring, and that's all. And you put everything back together. In fact, before I put it back together, this is a good time to flush the system through a bit. Flush out some of the soap cleaning solution. Use the 9/16 again to tighten these up. You could insert this now, or once you've shut the system off. It usually disturbs the system a bit, so it might be a good idea before you shut it off, come down here to your flow on the weir, open that valve, and you can even plug the end here with your thumb. So with that valve open, you've got now water coming up through the weir, and wait till it overflows. So once you have an overflow, you've established a steady head pressure for the sensor. And now the reason I didn't connect this directly is, having turned this on and off in a real world system, there may be some dirt or some things that may have gotten dislodged. So you could take this and let it flush for a while into a jar, let it flush on the floor, whatever you want, just to kind of flush out anything that may have gotten disturbed. And once you think it's thoroughly flushed and ready to connect, then you simply, without even shutting anything off, you just connect it right back up. And now your flow is coming up through here again. I described the weir system and the pressures on other videos. This is a vacuum brake. So now the water's coming up around vacuum brake and down to the drain. So now the system is all back together, all tightened up. And the power's back on. Now when we started this video, I think the particle counts were at about 250. You see they're a little higher now, because as I said, we disturbed things, turning things on and off. As it runs, it'll settle down and should go back to where it initially was. Although for the reason you cleaned it, you may have found that your particle counts were climbing and you couldn't keep things clean. So that probably the counts will go a bit lower than they were after your cleaning. So that's the method for cleaning the LD800 cell and the WPCS-EX-II particle counter. Just as a refresher, you want a wash bottle is a handy thing to have, micro cleaning soap, the cleaning brush, and a Q-tip just to clean the insides of the tubing. And you may find also useful some long brushes that you probably have for other purposes, for cleaning the insides of tubes here and here. And that's the procedure.